Welcome to Liquid Courage, the podcast where I, Amanda Pereira, sit down with a fellow artist that I admire and ask them the questions I've never had the guts to ask them before. Sounds scary? Yeah, it really is. So I use a little liquid courage in the form of my guest's favorite drink. We cheers, chat, and connect as I attempt to soak up all the wisdom they have to offer. Today I sit down with Julia Haist and we throw back a cocktail called Corpse Reviver No. 2. Julia is the founder of Ernie's Icebox, a premium ice cream sandwich shop here in Toronto. Julia has worked in the food and beverage industry for 15 years, all to support herself in the performing arts, which is how I came to know her. Julia graduated from Humber College's theater performance program, as well as Second City's Conservatory program, and went on to produce, write, and perform in many live theater productions and comedy performances, including her critically acclaimed solo show, This Is Not She, where she was nominated for Best Solo Performance by My Entertainment World's Critics' Pick Awards. When the pandemic hit, Julia, like many others, felt she had to pivot career-wise, and so Ernie's Icebox was born, her very own artisanal ice cream sandwich business. Since opening, Ernie's Icebox has been featured by BlogTO, Breakfast Television, in Toronto Life's annual holiday gift guide, and has made numerous best of lists. In July of this year, Julia opened up a storefront for Ernie's Icebox, located just north of Jane and Bloor in Toronto. So Julia is the owner of Ernie's Icebox here in Toronto, and someone I admire immensely. Hi, Julia.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi. You know that, okay, I wasn't even planning on saying this, but I just realized when I said your name out loud that I know what, because you've posted that sometimes people say Julie, or like I think you just went to a wedding recently and it said like Julie instead.
Yeah.
And I realized because I've known that about you, when I say your name, I really accent the at the end. And I'm like, hey, Amanda, calm down. Like she knows what her name is. You don't need to be like Julia. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate it very much.
As bad.
It's only ever in writing. Sometimes people are like, hey, Julie. Like I have so many stories, but most recently I had somebody where I had an email exchange with them for such several back and forths. And the only reason they knew my name was because it was written down in the email, like in my email and the way that I signed off. And they went back and forth between Julie and Juila.
Like, wait, how do you spell Juila? What's Juila?
Juila. Which I assume was a typo.
Right.
But then the next email was Julie. And then I went back to Juila. And I was just like, what is that?
I know I'm loving Juila. Okay, yeah. I feel personally that in emails it's unacceptable because if it's in the email, and then if it's not in the email, if your email is like cool baby cake 75 or whatever, which like
don't
get
give
me
that
handle.
Email on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. That was your private business one. Then by the second email you need to know because someone's going to say like sincerely Julia, like they're gonna put their name. It's unacceptable. It's written right there. You can't. You just can't. Like, come on. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, Julia.
Yes.
Juila is that is the cutest name I've ever heard. I think, but I will never call you Juila.
I appreciate.
Yeah. So it's the least I can do is call you by your freaking name. Okay. So it is like 11:30 or something in the morning. We are drinking a drink. I have never had this before. The Corpse. Now I'm panicking. Corpse Reviver? Okay, yes. I wrote it down.
Yeah. It's Corpse Reviver No. 2.
Number 2. Okay.
I think we talked about this and got the ingredients right, but now I'm wondering if there's a chance we're drinking 2 different cocktails.
Oh no.
What is in your cocktail?
Yes. Okay. Wait. Hold on.
We talked about the ingredients.
Yes.
So that's,
yes. Follow the email. Okay. Can you tell everyone what is in this crazy drink? And I really hope what you're listing is also what I put in my drink. I'm scared I fucked it up. Okay.
Just nod along and be like, yeah, sounds good.
Yep.
That's totally what I did. It's Corpse. I'm trying to remember if I used to know the history of it and if it was like I think it's a fairly old-ish drink or like a classic. And it is gin, Lillet Blanc, lemon juice, triple sec, and then it gets an absinthe wash. Which means basically you take, like traditionally you would go like a splash of absinthe and then swirl it around in the glass and then dump it out. But I don't like wasting. So I just kind of put like a teensy drop in and then do a little swirl. It is supposed to like coat the inside of the glass and give the flavor of the kind of absinthe, like the kind of star anise licoricey flavor. So like it's not like getting a sugar cube and like pouring the absinthe. Like we're not going to start hallucinating
Right.
in this
Yes.
in this podcast. But
Yes.
but yeah, it's a pretty classy one. And I definitely like threw you curveballs where I was like, here are the 3 ones that I would choose from, and they're all like green chartreuse and Luxardo maraschino liqueur and shit.
Loved it. I was like, she knows her shit. You sent me the coolest, most elaborate cocktails, and I was like, no, we are doing one of these. Like, we're figuring this out.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the next time you go to like a fancy cocktail bar, just ask for like any one of those, because those are my favorites, and I'm a big kind of, I was gonna say alcohol junkie, but that sounds horrible. That's just an alcoholic.
No, you were like a cocktail connoisseur or something. Like you.
Yeah.
And I want to ask, okay, so yes, nodding along for people watching, you would have seen, for people listening, absolutely yes, that is what I put in my drink. And full transparency, I was saying before we started recording, I was trying so hard to find absinthe. That is the only thing missing from my drink, but I have all the other things. And I did put some ice in it to like keep it cold. I haven't tried it yet. And like, I'm intimidated. This is basically all alcohol with like there's not that much lemon juice in it.
Yeah, but most of the alcohol is not like full strength. Like the Lillet is like, I don't know, 12% or something like that.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be too insane.
Yeah. It's a good, maybe it'll replace my mimosa at brunch. I'll just order
it's much more efficient. It gets the job
it's
done.
It's much more efficient. Oh my God. Oh, I love your glass.
Oh, thanks. I brought it from home.
Oh my God. Mine is just a big ass stemless wine glass that's like, wow. Condescending all over. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, cheers. I'm gonna try this corpse reviver number 2. I don't even know where to put my cheers.
Nice camera. Cheers. Oh yeah, there we go.
Cheers. Okay. Oh my God, it's so refreshing.
It is. That's why they call it a corpse reviver, because it's got a stupid amount of booze, but it's also like very citrusy and sweet and bright. Like it does give you like you're not gonna get scurvy with this, because it's got like a ton of lemon juice and like orange liqueur, and like it's just nice.
Oh wow. Oh, I will be drinking this. Well, first of all, for like winter as well. But this is such a lovely. I would want to make a picture of this in the summer and just like drink from this. You're already bringing so much to my life, Julia.
Oh, I try. This is something we used to, when I worked brunch at a diner, and it was just like an absolute, it was a war zone essentially. We would always make corpse revivers after for like our little after drink, because it was just refreshing and gives you a bit of a pep, but like delivers alcohol very, very efficiently.
Yes. So. And you know what? For people who, I love gin, but also I want to say for people who don't like gin, I feel like gin is polarizing, which has always surprised me. But for people who don't like gin, you can't taste the gin that much. You really taste the lemon and the orange, and then there is that like warmth afterwards a bit, but it's not a strongly gin drink. So everybody go try it. Go try it, and then message Julia a thank you and send her money for the thank you.
One note that I mentioned to you briefly, but I don't even know. Basically, if you were like trying to make this drink and you couldn't find absinthe, or didn't want to buy like spend $1 million on a bottle of absinthe because it can be expensive, there's a liqueur, like an aperitif called Pernod, which is like, it's just a very similar flavor. It's not gonna, it's not as high alcohol, but if you just want to get that little bit of that flavor in there and you don't feel like shelling out the big bucks, I feel like, I think Pernod is probably in a lot of cocktails too. So anyway,
so then you could use it on other things. Oh, I want to try. I really want to try it with the rinse, because I'm like, I think I'm not even a big like black licorice flavor person, but I think a little hint of black licorice with this would be amazing.
Yeah, I find without it, it tastes a little bit like almost just like a mimosa or something. It's just like all citrus, and if you get that little like the kind of star anise flavor on the end, it's very like well rounded and stuff. But it's good either way.
Yeah. So okay, so you are so like knowledgeable and clearly love cocktails and like cocktail culture. Like what is it about cocktails and cocktail culture that draws you to it, or that you love so much?
I think it's hard to say. I mean, I do just love booze, essentially. Like I'm a bit of a booze. Probably comes from like being in the industry. It does give you like a fairly decent like stamina for like you end up doing shots or having cocktails or whatever. And I've come to just like very much enjoy the flavor of alcohol. Like I like having a kind of a boozy experience. And cocktails are so interesting and versatile. Like people can get really creative, especially like, you know, like when you get into stuff that's like really like obscure herbal liqueurs from Holland or something, or like some very kind of, yeah, it's a bit of a way to like kind of, it sounds really cheesy to be like travel the world, but through drinks. But it's just like, I don't know, you get to have like new experiences all the time and find something that's really well balanced and new different flavors than you'd have access to, and plus then you get drunk, so that's nice.
Yeah, totally. It's like tasting foods from around the world, but it's better because you can get drunk. So it's kind of nice that way. Do you like create, like I know you like making and trying different cocktails that already exist. Do you also like trying to make new cocktail recipes? Is that your jam also?
I have. The problem is that it is quite hit and miss. I don't think I've created any that are like permanent fixtures now. Like it's more like a thing where it's, you know, especially in lockdown, it would be like, okay, so I have gin and this weird liqueur that a friend gave me for my birthday 2 years ago, and there's some orange juice in the fridge, and just trying to figure out if like I can turn something into a cocktail. But the problem is, yeah, like alcohol is kind of expensive and it can be hit and miss. So it sucks if you take like 4 ounces of good gin for like you and other people, not just me, and like mix it in with some weird thing, and then you're like, well, this tastes awful, so I guess I'll just throw it out or drink it out of spite or whatever. Usually I'll end up just sticking with the classics essentially, because it's I feel like there's not a whole lot of ground that hasn't been covered in that respect, you know, like it's, but you can also do variations that are like, you know, you're not going way out there. Like you can, you know, if it's normally an orange flavor, if you put in like lime or something instead, like that's not gonna change things drastically, or you know, you have lemon and not whatever, like that kind of stuff. Or you know, like margaritas are a really fun way to experiment because they've already got such a huge like punchy flavor that like putting other stuff in there, like you could put jalapenos in there, you could do a pineapple margarita, you can put like some herbs in there of some sort, and like, or play around with the salt ingredients. Yeah, like that's just a fun like way to just do little variations and have fun. So yeah, it's super super fun and creative.
It is. Well, and I find it hard because even if I'm going to like the store to get an alcohol, Jesus,
I need to go get the alcohol.
I need to go get the alcohol. They're such big fucking bottles that I'm like, well, if I buy this liqueur and I don't like it, like, and I, from this podcast, I have big bottles of a lot of, like, for this drink, is it Lillet? Am I saying that right? Okay.
I think it's technically Lillet, but I always just call it Lillet Blanc.
Lillet Blanc. Okay. My Lillet Blanc is from another episode. My trip with Knox, my triple sec is from another episode with Aaron Pym. Like, I just go in and I buy the my gin is from Flo and Joan. Like, I just buy the bottles, and I would love, I'm just going to pitch this out there, LCBO or wherever, whatever, the alcohol store. It would be great if it was like, here are a bunch of bottles of a bunch of different alcohols and liqueurs, and now take this home, and it's like a sampler, and you can see what you like, and then you can invest in the big bottles. Because
that's
like to
fun.
try. Yeah,
I know, like sometimes they do smaller bottles of like the Alpenhorn or whatever, like near the cache, but like having like a selection, or like they do the cocktail kits sometimes. Usually those are separate, but yeah, like even just having a small, like, just in case you're like, oh yeah, I'm trying to think. I was going to say Aperol Spritz, but that's a bad example. But yeah, you're like, I need green chartreuse for this cocktail. But you're like, okay, so I'm going to get like a half-liter bottle of it when I need to put a quarter of an ounce in there. And it's $50.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So make it a little more accessible, LCBO, for all of us to play around. You'll have repeat customers. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, it's not the LCBO who's doing it, but like, you know, all of the alcohol companies.
I like the idea of being like, word to the wise, LCBO, if you really want to have repeat customers, like if you want them coming back, it's like, they're like, we're good on.
Yeah, they're like, honestly, we're even considered an essential service. So like, we're fine. We really don't need the customers to be coming back. Like they're coming anyway. You're coming. You, and literally I'm saying this and I'm like, yeah, I purchased a full large ass bottle of Lillet Blanc. And they're like, okay, Amanda, we know you're fine. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. That's so true. Okay, because you're so knowledgeable in cocktails, I am putting you on the spot just a little bit. But I would love if I could give you a scenario and then you could like suggest me a cocktail for that scenario.
Okay,
Okay?
sure.
Okay, is that fun or burdensome?
No,
Which
that's
way
very
are we
fun, but you're
going?
gonna quickly
Okay.
learn that I know like 4 cocktails.
Oh my God, great. I okay, great. Then I'm gonna give you less than 4 scenarios so
Well,
that
no,
you can
whatever.
just okay. So I was thinking like, what if and actually this was inspired by when I was making this drink. What if I was feeling like adventurous and I wanted to try something really weird or unique, like with a weird ingredient where like where the fuck am I gonna get this?
Hmm. Okay. My first, I mean, I don't think it's that weird. I've talked about chartreuse a lot,
Mm.
but there's the classic cocktail that has chartreuse. That is probably my favorite cocktail, and was the alternative to this one. But I think this one you were like, I have pretty much all those ingredients, and
Yeah.
it's like a little easier, more accessible. There's a cocktail called the Last Word, and
Mm.
it's green chartreuse, Luxardo maraschino liqueur, and then lime juice and gin. And it's like green chartreuse is so like herbaceous and unique in flavor. Like it would be really weird to drink it on its own, which I think some people do, but that's a little
Oh.
much. But yeah, that one would be good. It's not that out there.
Mm.
Or something with like mezcal. I think like you could do like
Ooh.
I think I had a Negroni that was mezcal instead of gin recently. Any mezcal, really, if you want to be super adventurous with a cocktail, because it is just like depending on the mezcal, super smoky,
Oh.
really like hardcore. Like there's not much. Yeah, it's just like an overpowering amount of like smoke and alcohol, and it's very fun.
Oh, smoke. I feel like I have to wear. Actually, I feel like this blazer would be perfect for that. I feel like I have to wear like I don't know, a plaid
Definitely.
blazer for the
Yeah.
smoky. Okay, what if I wanted a cocktail for like a sexy date night situation? Like I want to feel cute, maybe they want to feel cute. What do I
Mm,
drink?
sexy. I kind of want to go. I
I'm
mean,
sexy.
I feel like a good old margarita might be a way to go. You could do like a
Mm,
spicy margarita. That would be very sexy. And also like
yes.
tequila is the best option in my books for that. And it's like fairly light and it won't give you bad breath.
Oh
And
my God, you're thinking of so many wonderful things. It won't give you bad breath. I didn't even
yeah,
think of that. Oh,
I feel
that's
like
brilliant.
yeah, because I want to say like, ooh, red wine is sexy. And it's like then you have blue teeth and your mouth is all
Yeah.
dry and like you feel tired. So that's
And you just feel tired. Yeah.
I think tequila might be. I've heard that it's like the alcohol that's an upper. Like all the other ones are like a downer. But maybe because it's like made of sugar. I don't know. I'm not
Mm.
totally sure. But it's supposed to be something that actually gives you an extra pep in your step instead of just like making you want to lie down.
I mean, I notice like if I drink vodka versus tequila, even versus like vodka will make me feel the most like, okay, now I'm ready for a sleep or sitting on the couch. And then yeah, and just even how I feel if I have a lot of vodka versus a lot of gin versus a lot of tequila.
Mm.
Tequila's the favorite for sure. And
Yeah.
I mean, also gin. Honestly, I love both of them. But yeah, I could buy that. Okay,
Yeah.
my last scenario for you is like, what's a good cocktail for Halloween? Because Halloween is coming up.
Halloween cocktail. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I'm trying to think. I want to say something whiskey based. Like I'm
Mm.
taking this as more like autumnal because I can't think of any spooky cocktails. Like
Right. So fair.
I don't
So
know.
fair.
Or oh, there's one that's like called Blood and Sand. I can't even remember what it is now though. But I was like, at
Oh,
least that has the word blood in it. But
yeah.
I think it might be like a clamato. I guess you could do a clamato like a Caesar because then it's like a
That's true.
bloody
It's
Caesar.
bloody.
But my favorite, I just always want to go whiskey in the fall. There is
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you could do an old fashioned or a Manhattan or something like that if you want some like the
Mm.
bitters and the whiskey and stuff like that. And it's very like warming and nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd probably be the way I
Oh,
go.
I like that one. And strong.
Yeah,
You're like,
and I don't
all
want to have
right.
a Caesar at nighttime in that. That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's cold. You have that in the
Yeah,
morning
yeah,
after you've gotten through Halloween. Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so kind of in the same vein. Well, instead of cocktails, we're gonna go food. So during the pandemic, I'm telling you this, but I'm telling listeners and viewers, you
Yeah,
started your own business, Ernie's Icebox, where you make homemade ice cream sandwiches that
yes.
look like fucking heaven. Like genuinely, I'm linking it in the description of the episode. Everybody go look at these ice cream sandwiches. They're like nothing you've ever seen before. Okay, so how did Ernie's Icebox come to be? I know this is a big loaded question, but like I know you pre-pandemic, I guess I should give context, as like performer, writer, director. Actually, how I met Julia, she directed me in a show. So like that, and then bam, you're opening up your own business. Like how did this come to be during the pandemic?
I always am not 100% sure what to say. Like, I'm just like, I am just as surprised as everybody else. I don't know. This just kind of like happened. I was like, I mean, like yourself probably, and to some extent, and pretty much everybody else in my field, like not only was I pursuing something in kind of a live performing arts thing of like theater and comedy, but, and like, which didn't largely translate to film and television and recording and whatnot, because like, yeah, I mean, I wasn't getting any work in that department anyway. But yeah, and not only that, but all of my Joe jobs as well were like also in person. So I was really like, I didn't even have any like transferable experience to any other kind of work really that it was viable. Like when we went into like one of the more recent lockdowns, I like was basically having a panic attack because I was like, I have no skills like that translate. There's no serving jobs. Oh yeah, like so I was serving and bartending, and then I was also working as a tour guide, like a food tour guide in like Chinatown and Kensington Market. So yeah, it's like that was the first
historical food tour guide. I'm like, okay, yeah. Julia, like no big deal.
It was super fun. It was just like, here's a script, memorize it and tell these stories to all the tourists from Michigan and whatnot. But it was super fun. But yeah, not a ton of tourism in March of 2020. Yeah. Yeah, so I was like really completely at a loss. And yeah, the most recent one was the worst because it was kind of post-CERB. Like I didn't qualify for CERB anymore. And so I was just like, oh, I guess I'm just screwed. Yeah. But so that's where I was kind of at. And I was, for a while there, it was just kind of, you were thinking maybe like, I guess we just wait this out for a little while. And then once it was starting to get apparent that like, once it had been, you know, I think in like November, December of 2020, I started thinking like, I need to figure something out. Because like my life as it was is not coming back. So I was just kind of throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall. And like I took a couple of online courses. I was looking into copywriting. I was like, I wasn't expecting this to be the thing that actually took off. This was like, I knew someone she was like selling pies on Instagram. Like she was another bartender that is just completely out of luck. And she made these like really amazing, beautiful pies. And she would like decorate them all fancy and basically be like, I made 3 of these, they're $25 each and I'll come deliver them to your house. And like there were so many people doing from home like food pandemic businesses like pizzas and baking bread and all this kind of stuff and delivering it around. And I also kind of around a similar time went and had like it was summertime and there was not a whole lot you could do, and so we were going around like going for ice cream a lot, and I had a couple of ice cream sandwiches in places where people would line up down the block for an ice cream sandwich, and was just generally like no shade, but finding that it was like there was one where I was like, they were like, yeah, here's your ice cream sandwich, but it's like served to you in a bowl with a spoon because it's not structurally sound enough, like you can't pick it up. Like it's like this, you know, it's a warm cookie with a scoop of ice cream, so if you try to pick it up it's gonna just fall apart and drip all over your hands. And so I was like, I guess I'll just like pick off the cookies and eat them and then eat the ice cream after. Yeah. Like, so I was just finding that I was like, this is just annoys me, and it's some weird soapbox I'm getting on. And I was like, there has to be some way this could work. And I was like, oh, what if they did like super soft cookies and then like that they could all be frozen together? Like, and I started like, for some reason, like I was probably having a mild nervous breakdown, but I just started like ruminating on like, how would you do that? And I started being like, oh, you could do this and then you could do this, like, and like just started kind of brainstorming it. And I was like, that's just, I've got nothing else going on and this is really fun. So I'm going to just, as a hobby, I'm going to try in the same way. Like I did all sorts of things. I made pasta. I did like, I made a couple of like old, in the cocktail vein, there's something called milk punch, which is like a thing where you take alcohol and tea and milk and you curdle it all together and then filter it for days. And like, and it's really cool, but like it turns into this like clear liquid and you can keep it for months, and it's like a weird bottled cocktail. But that was like, I was
Oh.
doing all sorts of shit like that, and I was, yeah, and I started doing that. I was like, I'm gonna make the perfect ice cream sandwich. That's what I'm gonna do. And people were like, "Are you okay?" Um,
You're like, I
and
need
so
to do
around,
this or my life will fall apart. Like I have to do
yeah,
this. Yeah.
and I did like a bunch of experimenting, and it was around Christmas time, so I was doing like some Christmas flavors, like mint chocolate and eggnog, gingerbread and stuff. And so I
Mm.
made them, and I think the intention was to make them and give them out as Christmas presents, but it took too long, so it was like the new year, and but then
Oh.
I had like I don't know, a couple dozen of each flavor in my freezer, and so I've like made a little, and I was like, these would be cool if I could sell them to like a coffee shop or something, like, or just
Yeah.
like do a little kind of wholesale business out of my kitchen, or just sell them on Instagram the way that the girl with pies does. And so I was like, yeah, that will be a little side hobby that I do because I like making them. It's fun. I like baking. And so I did that. And then there's so many like levels of like, how the hell did this, like, this wasn't the plan. How did this happen?
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of kismet things that happened. So I started like kind of shopping them around to like some businesses that I knew, or like, it was like a friend of a friend. And there was someone who had just opened up like a variety store. It was a tulip variety on Geary Avenue. I don't know if you're
Mm.
familiar, but basically
Mm.
they're a really cool shop where it's kind of like they're a variety store, but basically they have kind of the artisanal local version of all the things that a variety store would have. So they'll have like
Oh,
fresh baked breads and like
cool.
local Toronto products of like condiments and food stuff and whatever else, and like a really cool chip aisle that has all these obscure chips and whatnot. And then they also are like a flower shop. It's like the cutest little like fun
Wow.
picture
I want
place.
to go. That's so
It's
cute.
it's super cool. And yeah, and so they were like friends of a work friend of mine, and so I popped in there and was like, hey, here's a couple of samples. And they were like, oh, that's nice, good for you. We're not really, this was like February, and so
Yeah,
they're like, we're
yeah.
not really thinking about this right now, but like we will get a freezer, so like if we're interested later, we'll let you know. And then the weird thing that happened was that they happened to be next to an ice cream shop that closed very suddenly for some reason. And
Oh.
and then there was this like crazy heat wave in March of 2021, like where it's randomly
Mm.
like 18 degrees and sunny every day. So everybody was like marching down to that ice cream shop to go get ice cream, and it was closed. So they go into the variety store to be like, do you have ice cream? And she was like, no, we don't. And so she like called me and was like, do you have those? Like, can you bring them over like right now? And basically, like, I brought a big bag of them over, and they sold out in that day. And she was like, they're all gone. Do you have more? And I was like, no. And had to make, basically it became a thing where it was like I would just kind of like make as many as I could and like shovel them over there as whenever I could. And then from there, there was like, I think Taste Toronto, which is a like a
Mm.
food blog, found them, wrote a little story about them that got our Instagram like a few hundred followers. And it was like, oh, cool. Like, and some other people contacted me being like, can we stock them? I was like, that's awesome. And then
Oh.
from that, I got like, I had somebody reaching out being like, I might be interested in collaborating with you. So you can come use our restaurant's kitchen that's like shut down because we're in, a lockdown. And then like the next day after I moved into that kitchen, BlogTO reached out and they were like, hey, we saw your thing. We were thinking about writing a little story about it. That's cool. And they came like the next day and interviewed me, took some pictures. They were like, let's get pictures of you making your product. And I had like never been in that kitchen before or used any
Oh
of this
no.
equipment. Like, the pictures were fine, you can't really tell, but it was like me being like and like something breaking and being like, I don't know, oh no, the cookies are burnt, oh god. And like
No, I've seen those pictures. You look like a total natural. And I remember when I was like reading the article and seeing the pictures, I was like, oh shit, this is like a legit kitchen. Like this is not her like an apartment kitchen. This is a legit kitchen. Wow, Julia, what is
I
the
got
story behind this? Oh my god. Yeah, no, you
yeah,
killed it.
it was
Totally
complete
sold
luck.
it.
And yeah, from there,
Wow.
like once that happened, it just exploded. And it was like people just didn't realize that we weren't like a legitimate business, like that it
Right.
was just some loser like just making ice cream sandwiches out of her apartment that like had never been made more than 20 at a time.
Oh.
And I was like, and the orders, I think I got something around the realm of like 400 emails overnight asking, and like 2,000 Instagram followers and 400 emails like requesting, being like, hello, I will take a dozen of these, please. And I
Oh
was like,
my
I don't,
god.
what? And they just like kind of kept coming. And I was like, so I had to be like, I am doing like, I'm going to take this many. And so it's the first 60 people.
Yeah.
Or not. Yeah. I think it was 60 was the first one I took, which was way too much. Way too much.
I was going to say, I'm like, that is that would intimidate the hell out of me. 60.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was 60 orders of like 4 ice cream sandwiches, but it was for like the following week. And then I would do that once a week. And I did that for like these like pop-ups, drops, like the next drop is this time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I almost died because it was also like I'd never made them on a large scale. So like they were I failed at times. Like I messed up a big batch and, you know, was working like 12 to 14 hours in the kitchen because I'm like, I don't have staff.
I was gonna say, it's not like at this point, like you said, people might assume like, okay, this is a full, like a business that's been running for a while. They have the infrastructure to be taking like all these big orders. And I'm thinking, do you even have staff at this point?
Yeah, no, it went from that, like from me in my kitchen on like a Saturday morning, just doing it for fun to that in like, I don't know, 3 weeks.
Wow.
Maybe? And like 2 of those weeks were me being like, I'm starting to think that this could be something someday. And it's like, and that day is tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it was like,
I hope you're ready. Here we go. Oh my God.
And it just like, I guess they just kind of looked appealing on Instagram and like people liked the story of local woman hit hard by pandemic, which is literally what the BlogTO article started with. It was like a local woman that's been hit hard by the pandemic.
She's been struggling.
And it's a picture of me in like an apron, like, oh. I was like, I mean, I guess so. Yeah.
Like, I guess, like, but like maybe this isn't what I want the introduction to be. Oh my God.
Poor woman.
Hit so hard.
Pathetic woman.
This poor, pathetic, sad woman out of business and now starting one. Well, and like now fast forward to today and you have your own physical storefront for Ernie's Icebox, I'll just say it because I was like excited when we were setting up, where we're recording today, or where you're recording today, I should say, remotely. That's so fun. How has it been like now having your own physical store and having staff of your own? Like, what is that like?
It's very interesting. It's weirdly, I think I had so much time where the worst thing that could have happened is that it was all going to fall through and like all of it was so up in the air for so long. And so I had a lot of time to plan theoretically how it would work if it all worked out. I applied for a program called Futurepreneur, which is a BDC. Futurepreneur is an organization that collaborates with BDC, which is the Business Development in Canada, Business Developer of Canada. Anyway, they give business loans. And so they basically, I think there's like an age cap where they give fairly low interest loans to entrepreneurs that don't like have a house to put against a loan or whatever, that would never be able to get a manageable, if they could get a loan at all, it would be like an insane interest rate. And so that's basically how they work. And they make you do a bunch of workshops and all this kind of stuff, and then write a really cohesive business plan. So that was I would highly recommend anybody that's starting a business and needs like a bit of startup capital to go through them, because they make you learn all this stuff and then write a really giant business plan, like a 2-year business plan and cash flow, and work with like some advisors that will like work with you and look at your plan and tell you where the potential problems are and all this kind of stuff. So more than, I mean, I needed the money very much, but more than that, it was just like, I was like, I know what I'm doing. I have a plan. I know how to do it.
I got
a plan.
Then
once they're like, okay, write it all down and like tell us step by step and like tell us like make this like detailed cash flow document of like all the stuff. And then I would be like, oh, right.
I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Yeah.
And so yeah, by the time it actually happened, it had looked like it was not going to happen for quite a while. Like I'd hit a lot of roadblocks, and the biggest thing was just finding a space that would work that I could afford.
Yeah.
Because everything is crazy expensive in Toronto. And it was just, because you also have to, in the business plan, in the pitch for getting the loan, you have to say like what your budget is for rent and what you will need to do to the building and where you want it to be and why you want it to be in that neighborhood, like pitch that neighborhood for your business. And so that kind of locks you into like, you have to find a place in this neighborhood now. And if you, I mean, it could be transferred. You can contest it. You can make a case if you find a different place in a different neighborhood. You just have to make a case for why that also would work. And as long as they agree with you, then that's fine. But you do have to put a lot of work into like, what is the best place for my business to exist, and what is my budget, and how many square feet do I need? And so finding a place that fits into all that, where the loan, getting approved for the loan depends on you finding a place like that and having them say, yes, we will rent to you.
Oh my God.
And then you get approval for the loan. Where if they say no, then you can't lock in the place until they say yes, but they also won't say yes for sure unless you have a signed agreement with the place that you do have the place. So it is a really, like, you have to do like a conditional loan and then a conditional like agreement to lease, send them to each other, get them processed. Anyway, I think you asked what is it like to have staff, and now I've gone off on this huge tangent.
No, honestly, it's interesting because it sounds like when you're like pitching a TV show that you're like, oh, hey, network, we have a production company who's really interested. Oh, production company, we have a network who's really interested. And they will only both approve you as long as somebody else also wants you. Like, it's a very like back and forth game. It's like nobody, it's like sometimes it feels like nobody's willing to have the first yes, even if everybody else is not saying yes. Wow, that sounds so freaking stressful. Oh my God. And your place is so cute. Like, when I am so glad that it worked out that you could get that place and that it works for you, because it's so cute. Like,
it works like completely convinced. So by the time, I think I had been so stressed that it wasn't going to work out, and it had seemed for so long like it wasn't going to work out, and I'd had to do so much planning of every single contingency in order to prove that I could in fact qualify to get the place. That the actual like, okay, now we have it, and it's like, oh well, now I have a whole plan in place, which is great, because I probably would have just signed a lease and been like, okay, what do I do now? And like and then been like, oh God, I don't know anything. And so that was great, and it didn't seem comparatively, and also because like everything had gone so wrong prior to that. I won't even get into the actual like its first summer, but it's just like on the one side, like on like the outside looking in, it's like, wow, so successful, because there was just like a lot of media attention, a lot of people like excited about it. We got a lot of Instagram followers and people being like, I want to buy from you, come to Vaughn, and you're like, wow, congratulations. But like freezers were breaking down, we got kicked out of the kitchen, we had someone that was going to invest drop out, like we had like everything. The dairy board came in and told us to cease and desist on like some stuff. Like it was a nightmare, and I didn't know, and none of this was the plan. I was going to be doing a cute little business on Instagram out of my apartment part-time. Like this was not the plan. So it like comparatively, the idea of just having our own kitchen and a little storefront and being like, people will come to us where we make our ice cream sandwiches with the equipment that we need for the job. And then we just give it to them, and not like I have to go rent a kitchen and then buy equipment and then talk the landlord into letting me put the equipment in, paying the rent, and then loading up a cooler, going to a farmer's market and like selling it from there. And then and then trying to coordinate pickups, but we're moving kitchens every 5 seconds. Like that was such a nightmare that comparatively the idea of just having a shop and being like, this is where our kitchen is and the customers come to us, I was like, oh, that's way easier. And so like, great. So so that's basically, not to say that it was easy, because it was not. It doesn't seem like there's ever times where it's like, here we are chugging along, everything's fine. Like there's always something.
There's always.
But I think that's just going to be a permanent state pretty much from here on out. And it's like, because it's a challenge if it's successful, and it's a challenge if it's not successful. So like keeping up if you are successful is a huge challenge, and figuring out how to, improve things if it's not successful is also a huge challenge. So this is just what I'm fated to. But yeah, it was also with the staff, it was we were very, very lucky. We got a lovely group of like college students home from the summer that we just lucked out with the people that we were like, yeah, sure. Like, we had a Zoom meeting with them, and they seemed nice. So they came in and they were just gems. Michaela, Lily, and Rachel and Alicia, and Erin are all female staff, as it worked out. And So yeah, that was lovely. And they were very super supportive. I wasn't used to having help. So for a while I was just doing all the stuff and they were like, do you want me to do something? And I was like,
Julia,
I was like, no, it's fine. I
you're
got
paying
it.
me to be here. I can
And
help.
yeah. So, and like, they were like, you can go home if you want. And I was like, no, never.
Oh.
And yeah, it took some getting used to just having other people doing the stuff. And I felt weird guilt with that. But other than that, it was lovely. Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, was it trusting them to do it how you would want it done? Or was it like also feeling, like you say, feeling guilt, like feeling like, oh my God, am I putting too much on them? What was hard about like going home and letting them do it? What was hard about it for you?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I was like, I had this mentality of like, I'm hiring people to do, like, I will get to the capacity of how much work I can physically do. And then that's when, like, when I reach that limit, then that's when I will call in, you know, reinforcements. And so the idea of me like having like sitting on a beach, having a cocktail while there's other people like running my business for me had like some sort of weird guilt. And it is also like, I am very, very particular about like the ways in which the product is made, mostly because there's so many little things that seem so ridiculous and like kind of splitting hairs, but in reality it makes a huge difference. Like when they're putting, like there's a whole assembly process, and like when you're putting ice cream into the little sheet pan that you will then like cut up to be the ice cream in the thing, like there's a certain height that you have to get it to, and it's kind of different for each ice cream because each ice cream sandwich has its own cookie, and some of the cookies are thicker. And so as a result, it's like, well, this one has a thin cookie, so the ice cream has to be thick, and this one has a thick cookie, so the ice cream has to be thin. Because if you don't do that, then someone orders one of each. One of them is like 2/3 the size of the other one, and people are like assume that the small one is too small and not that the big one is bigger than average.
It's bigger,
and, like, and then you get kids fighting because one of them got the smaller one, or like if you don't bake the cookies exactly right, then they, you know, they're over baked, they get rock hard in the freezer, and people try to bite through them and they're not pleasant at all. Like, and so it's like you have to be so like minute with the details that I felt really weird and guilty with these, you know, these like youngsters being like, I'm just making the thing, and I'm like popping in behind them and be like, did you do this? Did you do that? Or like, wait, how long was that in there? How long? What did you use to measure this? And like, I'm on my back, like I'm making cookies, like relax. And
yeah, but it's also all the work and the time that you put into learning all of those things about like, oh, then the kids will fight. I want to make the parents' lives better. Or like maybe someone will complain that this is smaller and it's like, okay, or I can't bite into this. Like all of that time that you took learning, I get that it's like just because you have new people on, you don't want to have to go through all of those mistakes again. And so it is also like quality control. That makes sense to me. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think and I've heard this from like, if I've talked to other people that also run businesses, the biggest challenge with employees, especially if it's like your business and your thing, like is like delegating.
Yeah.
And like figuring out how to do that. Cause you want to have control over everything, and you want to do everything yourself, and you want to work yourself to the, you know, to the bone, cause that's just what you're used to doing. And then also there's so much stuff that now is just second nature, and you do it really like, it's just, you just do it quickly and efficiently and instinctively, and you kind of can forget that those things aren't instinctual to someone that hasn't done this 8,000 times. And then you get the thought of like, oh, I know how to do this like really quickly and efficiently, and this person does it, so it's actually going to take me longer. Like it'll take me just as long to explain to them how it's done than if I just do it myself. And like, oh, we don't have time, like we're crunched for time, so I'll just do it, and like some other time I'll teach you how to do it and whatever. But it's like, but no, you have to take the time to teach people how to do it and do it correctly and be like a nitpicky person, because that will ultimately be the most efficient way to do anything. That will be what saves you time in the long run.
Exactly.
And makes everybody's lives easier. Like people are way more happy to have you just be like, really be like, this is exactly how I want to do it. So they're not always like, is this right? I don't know. Is that okay? I don't know. And like, I had so much trouble like telling people, they were like being like, that's wrong. No, do it like this. Like I felt like I would always like preface it with like, sorry, I'm such a psycho. I know this, like, oh, you're probably like, oh, shut up, Julia, but you actually rap it like this. And like people will be like, you don't have to say that every single time.
Yeah.
Like, you said that 6 times this morning, and it's making us really worried about your mental health.
Yeah, exactly. Like yes. And you're right. Like it is a long-term thing. And because I think so many starting businesses or businesses that have been going for a long, long time, or businesses that are growing, like all of them, it's so you feel like you're always in survival mode. Like you're always like, I don't have time. I don't have time. But exactly what you said, if you teach somebody, if you take the time to teach somebody now, it is an investment. You will get an ROI. You will get a return on investment. Sorry, my partner is constantly watching stock related podcasts like on the TV. And so it's just, he's very into the stock market. I don't know. I bought one stock. Anyway, but I know, right? And I don't know if it's doing well. I'm trying not to check it. It's a long-term thing. Anyway, it's like a safe, long-term, boring thing. But whatever, you will get a return on investment if you take the time to be like, this is exactly how I want it done. And this is why, because then they're going to care. You aren't actually like a drill sergeant saying, I want it this way because, which also that's okay too. As long as you're treating people nice, that's fine too. But then ultimately, it became instinctual for you, so it will become instinctual for them, and then it does save you time. So yes. But I'm sure it's scary in the moment. I mean, I would love to have help on even this, very meta, even on this podcast, and I don't even know how to approach it. I'll probably ask you those questions later. Not that it's a full functioning business, but it's like, it's hard to think, oh well, why will people care about your thing? It's yours. And how do you delegate, and it just seems easier to do it all yourself. But you're right. Even when you said like, I felt bad that I'm going to be off at the beach, like hanging out while everyone else is doing my work. And I'm like, Julia, I would bet all of the money that I invested in my one stock, I would bet all that money, you're not going off to a beach. You're going home and maybe getting like the sleep that a human deserves, or maybe you're going home and like answering business related emails. Like, you're not going off taking vacation. You're literally just going to either be a human being, like take care of your dog, or do other business things. So, but even that it's hard to not feel guilty about having anybody do it. But it's a challenge. I think there's something, probably also like kind of womany about like feeling a weird guilt about telling people what to do, where that is probably like in great, like it's the same thing as when they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, whenever I write an email, it's like, it starts with sorry and ends with, if that's okay, if not, no worries. Like that's, and that's how I would catch myself saying that, where it's like, oh, sorry, but this is done this way. If that's okay. If not, it's not a big deal if you don't. And like, I would like, there would be very important things that it's like, it really does need to be made this way. And I would say that, and then be like, if you have the time, like, honestly, it doesn't really matter that much. If a few come out that are burnt, it's like, whatever, we'll just throw them away. It's not a big poison. And if you are poison, it's okay. Yeah, and like, guys, no worry. Like, there's a full piece of paper in this one ice cream sandwich. Don't worry about it. Like, it's fine. It happens. Don't worry. Whoopsie. Whatever. Right. But like, just keep an eye out for it, or don't. I don't care. And it's like, no, tell them what to do. Yeah. You are paying them. Yeah. And like, and they're not sitting there being, even if because I mean, I'm hyper aware of the fact that it's just very easy for people to just hate their boss and resent them, where it's like, if they're kind of like, ugh, I want to go hang out with my friends, but I have to go to work. And then you become like the kind of personification of that. Or like when people are corrected on something, sometimes they get a little like, and then, people, I remember being young and just like hating my bosses and being like, nah. And now I have so much sympathy for those bosses. Like, some of them were assholes, but like, where like, if they came in and they were like, hey guys, time to lean, time to clean, or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, fuck you. Face. Like, I'm talking to my friends. Like, it's like they're paying me to be here and do a thing, and I'm doing everything in my power to not do my job. Most of these were for like giant corporations, so I don't feel that bad about it. But totally. Like, and then I would come in and be like, what are you guys doing? Are you guys DC? Maybe you could finish. Oh, if you need things to do, I can give you a few things to do. And like, I'm like, they fucking hate me. Like, Yeah, but it's also, I mean, from another side, like, again, I know this is outside looking in. Like, I know of performers that you gave jobs to, and like, full circle, you lost your jobs at the beginning of the pandemic. Was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then you turned it into something where other people who were like, what the fuck am I going to do? Oh, I'll go work for Julia. Thank God. Like, There was actually a time where a friend was like, "Oh, Julia's," or maybe even you. Someone mentioned that you were looking for people because I think it was either around the holidays or around the summer, and you were like, "Oh my god, we need extra people," and I almost like submitted to work because I was like to work for you, and then weird kismet. Talk about kismet, like. I got a job offer from someone to do something, and I was like, "Oh my god, okay." But like you could have saved me too. Like you are offering that to other people. So yes, I'm sure some people, because it's always going to happen. And with young people, you know, we're all more likely to be like, I have to go to work. But also it's like, oh my God, I get to go to work, especially during a pandemic for all these people. And I get to go to work and I get to work for not a corporation, like a business. And I get to see it grow and I get to work directly with the person who started this business. Like all of that can be so rewarding. So I think you should give yourself so much credit for like you're helping all these people pay their rent or their student loans or for their textbooks or their fucking fun date where they then order like a margarita. Like you're paying for their margaritas. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose that's true. Like, yeah, it's like at the end of the day, I'm like, hey, I guess you're welcome for the money. Like,
Yeah.
I also do think I was really like, I was doing my best to make a place, like a workplace that was like hospitable and nice and pleasant. Probably if anything that got in the way sometimes of like where I'm like, I should be telling them to get the fuck back to work or something, but I don't want to.
Right. Yeah.
But I think the only thing that was like, I also got a pretty decent crash course in like being the kind of stoic leader in a way, because I feel like maybe because we created such a kind of friendly and personal atmosphere, when things were going not well and we had all sorts of shit go wrong. We had multiple freezers break down, fridges break down, this, that, the other, like, and then like on top of everything else, like the store opened, we sold out in 5 seconds. We had to shut down for an extra week to make more, and the freezer broke down again. So it's like, you know, whatever. And like, oh, now we're like, we opened a month later than we were supposed to, and like all this stuff. And I'm like, I know for a fact that they saw all that stuff very much on it, like me like coming in and being like in the morning and being like, we're all fucking doomed. Like,
you're just coming in with your corpse reviver number 2, being like
everybody,
you might as well go home.
Giant sunglasses on. Yeah, and I got like I went through in the middle of the summer. Like it was always something would go. Last summer there was something that went horribly wrong in the middle of the summer. This summer I had a big breakup in the middle of the summer and didn't like from the opening day of the store to like the breakup happened in like late July, and then I think 2.5 weeks after that I didn't have a day off. So like the breakup took place in chunks in the couple of hours a day I had between my 12-hour shifts, and then like get up early and go back to the shop the next day. And I also have a lovely kind of colleague, like my second in command, who's a good friend of mine who I've worked with before, for a long time, Erin. Shout out to Erin, she's the best. But she got like strep throat a few days after the breakup, so she was supposed to be working like looking after the kitchen and helping me. And she was extremely ill and couldn't. But it was like that thing where I was like, she was like, I'm gonna do this and this and this and like take some of the load off of you so that you can have some time. And then she was like, just kidding, actually I'm not coming in for the rest of the week. And then she was out for 2 weeks, and like it was so anyway. So there was like some 19 and 20-year-olds out there that have witnessed a woman in her 30s having 17 breakdowns every single day, and like I've probably scared them off of like, if I'm supposed to be inspiring young people to like go after their dreams and be entrepreneurs, then I think there's a lot of parents that would probably thank me for like talking their like being like, this is what it's like. Do you want this to be your life?
You've given them their crash course also. Oh my God. And I love that you're like, again, even more so like, yeah, I felt bad if I would went off and be on the beach. I'm like, oh, sorry. You didn't take a day off for weeks and weeks. I don't think you're going to the beach. You're just wanting to like have a day where you do laundry and like sit down. Like that's, oh my gosh, that is wild. Well, and when you said too, like that it's hard to be able to like delegate and instruct people what to do, and that maybe it's like, kind of how females are conditioned and taught as we grow up. I couldn't help but think about, like I mentioned, like how we met, that
Mhm.
you have directed multiple productions, and I'm wondering how that translates over to directing when literally that is your job. Your job is to be like the captain of the God, every time I'm like the captain of the plane, the pilot of the ship. I cannot get those straight. Okay, you are instructed to be in charge and tell
Well,
people
yeah.
what to do. Yeah. So,
Because
yeah.
like pilots are captains, they say this is your captain, so I guess they're both.
Oh
You don't say the
my
pilot of a
God.
ship, I suppose. But anyway, sorry, you had a question. This is not the question.
Julia, no, you just, that's so, oh my God, you just gave me such a gift. I can just always say captain. I panic for like months. This has been happening. And now
And captain both times.
no one has pointed, how has nobody, if you're listening or watching this and I've said this and you haven't, maybe you haven't thought about it. Okay, so you are the captain of this production when you are the director. And so how does that, I guess, how do you find that translates over, like when you are directing a production? Do you feel more comfortable telling people what to do? How do you feel that you are the captain of the ship
Mm.
and or the plane?
I think that I'm really glad that I had that experience going in because yeah, I'd almost taken for granted that I have been kind of in charge of a big operation and of
Mm-hmm.
people, both in terms of like um, you know, delivering instructions and doing so in a way that they're not going to be angry at me, but also understand what I mean. And I think that if anything, directing theater is probably like the greatest like preparation, where it's like in like telling some people how to make cookies in the kitchen is a million times easier than telling actors how to interpret a text and
Right.
like and to how to do this very gutting heartbreak scene where they break down crying, and then have them do the scene and pour their heart out and then find a way to tell them that they're not doing it right or whatever when it's all
Right, right.
completely subjective anyway. And like
Mm.
they kind of there's technically the environment of like collaboration and there's no wrong answers, and sometimes actors can have egos that you have
Mm.
to manage and you can't tell them to fuck off. like
Yeah.
if
Even
they're
if they
having a
deserve
moment,
it. Yeah.
yeah, like as
Yeah.
however much they might not, like if they are behaving out of line, it's like, well, how much of a problem do you want this to be? Because like
Yeah.
I'm sure it would feel really great in the moment to tell them off, but like
Mm-hmm.
then you've got the fallout of that, and you open in a week and a half or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
this person, and also like a lot of times like, well, I'm not paying them, or it's like a profit share, so they're like, I could just leave, like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
And so you have to like keep that boat balanced.
Oh.
And yeah, and like yeah, manage people's feelings a lot because it's very personal, and
Mm-hmm.
deal with interpersonal issues and handle sensitive subject matter that people have to handle. Like there's so much stuff that you have to balance,
Yeah.
and comparatively, like this is just tell people what to do and where to go, and like uh but yeah, and even then it's yeah, but there's also like way more, I think, gratification from directing, because it's like
Mm.
yeah, developing a script and like creating something that's very like artistic and stuff, so that's got its own rewards for sure. And it's I've been
Yeah.
really thinking lately, I've been missing it a lot, which
Yeah.
I was always so absorbed in this whole operation that like people
Mm-hmm.
were like, are you going to start doing theater again? And I was like, when would I do that? What? No, like no. And
Yeah.
also, theater did not love me back. I loved theater. It did not love me back. Like it was always just me being like, I guess I'll just produce this myself and like lose a bunch or
Oh,
whatever. Like I don't
welcome
know.
to my
Anyway,
heart.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a challenge anytime, and a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
get put into those positions almost unexpectedly, and it is a very specific challenge that sometimes it flies under the radar how hard it can be to do it
Mm-hmm.
well. And I've still definitely got a lot to learn, and I think it's just a matter of like there's no way to like you can't go to school and learn how to do it. I don't think, as much as I'm sure in business school there's like how to manage a staff. I
Yeah.
got I was working for someone where they had a lot of like is it anagrams, not anagrams, but like the things where they're like kiss, keep it simple, stupid, but they would
Oh,
have that for like
acronyms. Yeah.
acronyms. Thank you.
Yeah.
And like they'd be like, and it's like, here's the rules, and here's a graph that you write where you write people's like do the compliment sandwich and do like all this stuff, and like here's all these tricks to manage people's feelings and make them more efficient workers. And I was always like really creeped out by that, where I'm like, that's robotic. I
And
don't
it
know.
does
I
feel
mean,
like a trick, like you said, like the tricks, like, and I'm sure they're effective, and I'm sure, but sometimes I feel like when it comes to, and this can be in every industry, I'm very obviously limited in my experience of how many industries I've worked in, but with acting and stuff too, and directing, like I feel like each individual is so individual, and you are dealing, and depending on, I guess I'm thinking of like tricky subject matter too. It's like, am I really gonna bring in an acronym right now? Maybe. But if I'm talking to this person about like, hey, how are we going to access this very sensitive, like trigger warning worthy content, maybe it doesn't help to remember the business class where it's like, how do we deal with customers? I mean, I don't know, it could totally translate, but it's such a beast, and it's interesting to me, like and I don't know, I'm not going to pretend or claim that I know you super super well, but just from working together and knowing, being around you and things like, and hearing you say right now like, oh, like could you maybe, I said sorry 100 times a day, like what drew you to directing? Because all the things you said you have to do as a director sound really sound like all the things that you're like, I don't want to have to say that to people. Like what drew you to it?
I'm trying to remember. I think yeah, I mean, I've always just been very attracted to, it's not so much that I want to be the boss. Like if there is some way to be like, I don't know, like the guy from the Truman Show where he's like hidden in the moon and like giving little directions and nobody. Like if I could do it without having to do the human interaction part, like having like creative control and like making a thing and being able to say like, to have some control over like the way that it is presented and the way that it's performed, and like being able to say like, here's my idea for the aesthetic, and like just having that kind of overall oversight and being able to execute kind of a creative vision has always appealed to me. Especially, I think that I do think that it's a factor that and again, I feel like I'm just like one of 8 million people on TikTok saying stuff like this, but like I did get diagnosed with ADHD very late in life, before it was a thing on TikTok. And like where I think, oh yeah, I was talking to like, shout out, oh shoot, I want to shout out who I was talking to, but I'm pretty sure anyway, it was a comedian.
Oh, you're like, now I'm going to tell everybody, got it.
No, there's a very like beloved, successful young comedian in Toronto who was talking about having ADHD, and she was just talking about like, oh yeah, like I always forget this and I get distracted. I could never focus on math. I can totally focus on things that are interesting, but when they're not interesting, I can't do it. And it's like, and I was listening to her being like, it's not ADHD. I feel that way all the time.
You're like,
and then like
people.
And she was just like, and then I like looked at, and she was like, yeah, it's, you know, way different for girls than it is for guys. And like, there's all that kind of like, it manifests differently in women and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, And I like just kind of Googled like, what are the symptoms of ADHD in women? And I was like, oh no, oh, this is a thing. And like, and realized that like ways in which I was like, in some ways I'm really proficient, and then in other very basic ways I am not proficient, and I seem in some way that I can't put my finger on to think really differently from everybody else. And I have a lot of trouble fitting into pre-existing kind of structures of work or creativity or whatever. Like it just never seems to work out. But when I have the opportunity to create my own thing, usually it goes pretty well. Like I always had the instinct to just do it myself, because I was like, if I could just do it like this, and I didn't have to do it the way that everybody else kind of specified for me to do it, then I know I could do a good job. But if I have to follow, like same as with like school, I was like, I know that there's lots of things that I'm really good at, and I wish I could just go to one of those schools where they only make you learn about the things that are interesting to you. Because for me, not only was it like, it wasn't like, oh, this is a drag, I don't care. It was like, I can't, like it's like the page turns into hieroglyphics and I can't read it if it's boring. Anyway, so that was a thing where I was like, if I just could be in a situation where I kind of have full creative control, I know I could do it. Like, I think I could do a good job. But it would just be not the way that everybody else kind of designates. And also, again, when it's something I really, really care about and feel really passionate about, then I get obsessive and will work on it 14 hours a day and like obsess over every single little detail. And like, I'll make the schedule, I will build the set. Like I'll be scary, like with over too much control. And so yeah, and then that was like, I don't know what possessed me to think that meant that would transfer into like interpersonal skills. And I'm not totally sure that it did. Like, other than the fact that I am nice and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So at least I wasn't like going in as a tyrant that everyone was like, Jesus Christ.
No.
Like, if anything, they're probably like, just give me a direction, please. Jesus. Like, stop apologizing, or, you know, whatever. And that was, I think, the first time I directed something, it was something that I also wrote. And so like, I wrote it, I directed it, I acted in it. Do not recommend. That was too much. I was 22. It was stupid.
And then got nominated for an award. So weirdly,
that one was not, I didn't get nominated for that. That was a different one.
Okay, great.
But you know, it went over okay, but it was definitely like a very baptism by fire. Like, you see your shortcomings very quickly, and you gotta get good at this. And so luckily, like, I just kind of did it in a very, you know, slapdash, just threw myself into the deep end, but still in a fairly low stakes. It was the Fringe, like, yeah, might lose $700.
low stakes, you know, low stakes. Yeah.
If 0 people attend, then I will lose $700.
Yeah, exactly.
But then, yeah, so, you know, it's a good, that's what the Fringe is great for. It's just a great kind of time to experiment. And yeah, so that was, but yeah, it was weirdly addictive and really great. And I just got like, again, more kismet opportunities. Like, I was like, I enjoyed that, but I had no idea what I was doing. It would be cool if I had some. And so I applied to be like an assistant director for a festival, like a New Works festival. And I got an assistant directing position because somebody else dropped out. And then the production that I was assistant directing on, the director had to drop out. So they were like, they called me up at like 10 p.m. like a couple weeks into rehearsals, being like, hey, would you remember how you're the assistant director? How would you like to be the actual director? And I was like, what? Oh yeah, that was the play that you were in.
Was that the play that I was in?
Yeah, that Cottage Radio starring Humber College. And yeah, I wasn't supposed to be the director of that. Like, they didn't even hire me to be the assistant director of that. Like, I got that job because somebody else dropped out, and then the director dropped out, and then there I was. So
I might have never met. Well, I probably would have met you in comedy and all those things, but oh my God, I didn't know that. And I know, like, I feel like there's no way for me to say this without it sounding like, oh, you're just saying that because she's here. You were a fantastic director, actually. And no, it's the other way. You're here because I feel that way. It's not I feel that way because you're here, because I asked you to be here. So like, everybody, no. You were a fantastic director. You had such a vision. You also were so open for like collaboration. You also gave a shit about who we were as humans, and you were telling us what to do. Actually, before we recorded last night, I was like going through old emails that you had sent with notes and stuff of like the tech rehearsal, because apparently my email account keeps everything. This was years ago. And I was like, yeah, this holds up exactly how my memory was. Like, it would be a dream to be directed by you again. You are such a fantastic director. So if you have any interest in doing it again, sorry, I've had like only half of the drink, but oh my God, it's hitting me so hard. It was like I started in the morning. But if you have any interest in directing again, I absolutely think you should. And anybody out there looking for a director, absolutely reach out to Julia, because I think you're so fantastic in it. And because you are also a performer, I feel like you bring that aspect into it too, that you just understand what it's like to be on the other side. And actually, like, I wonder, as a director, like, often being a director, you maybe always, but I'm gonna say often just in case, you get to sit in on the casting process and like the auditions. And like, what did you learn about when you were a director and you were watching auditions? What did you learn about auditions as a performer yourself?
Oh, good question. Performer. I don't know if there's necessarily anything that I wasn't at least vaguely aware of
Right.
before.
Yeah.
I am remembering because I was going to bring this up as like this is one of the more fun things that you get to do as being like a
Oh,
young woman in charge. It's
yeah.
just handling the situations where people kind of like try to undermine your authority or like underestimate you.
Oh, yeah.
When you get moments where you get to kind of prove that wrong, that's like just like
Mm.
that
Ah.
which made me realize that actually I fibbed a little bit. We weren't in the middle of rehearsals when I got bumped from assistant director to director. We were in the
Mm.
middle of like pre-production stuff where
Mm.
like I'd attended a couple of production meetings where like
Mm.
the designers were talking about what they wanted to do, but we hadn't even cast it yet. And I remember one of my favorite things to do was in that particular theater. We were doing it in the studio theater, um, which was on the third floor. Like it was like
Mm-hmm.
an attic theater, and we had to run down 3 flights of stairs to let every individual person auditioning in.
Oh, God.
And so they would like call the stage manager when like
I, I
and then
remember
like
at
when
the
they were there,
door.
they're like call this number, like they pasted the number on the door that someone would come down and get you. And
Yeah.
so I made a point of being the person that ran down to get them. um
Julia, can everybody just really let that sink in? What you just like direct captain of the ship plane. That's how you do it. That is.
well, it was me being slightly sneaky because I think I did it once because it was like,
Mm.
oh, this person's here, and like I was sitting near the door, so I was like, oh, I'll go do it. And then I ran down and it was some dude who just like kind of brushed past me, and like I was like, how's your day going so far? And he was kind of like, yeah, fine, whatever. And then like was kind of like, do you have like, is there like a glass of water or something? Like he was just kind of like treating me like I was assuming that I was like some assistant
Mm-hmm.
stage manager. Not that you should ever be disrespectful to those people anyway.
No, but this is the
And
whole point. Absolutely.
yeah, and so like once I got like a bit of intel and like, ooh, the feeling of like when that guy was kind of rude to me, and then we sit down for his audition, and I'm like, my name's Julia, by the way. I'm the director, and like there's just
Oh God, I'm like getting victorious feelings via whatever
and this is
by proxy.
an unpaid workshop play. Like this is
Yes.
not anything. But we were casting a father,
Mm-hmm.
so which meant we were bringing in like a lot of middle-aged dudes that
Mm-hmm.
were kind of in business or whatever. And it was like again, nobody, even despite the fact that I signed the emails, and if they paid attention they would know that it was directed by a woman and
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and you should be polite to whomever anyway. But most people didn't realize that I was the director, and I think I was 25 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it was just like a good bit of intel, and it's like if they're a dick to me, then that's because as soon as they walk in the room they're going to be like all like smiles and be like,
Oh,
thank you so much
best.
for the opportunity,
Yes.
and like whatever. And so it's just like we've got 3 sets of stairs to climb, and yeah. So that's very that, I don't know if that answers your question at all, but like
Yeah, be a kind human being, and also like
yeah.
be a kind human being to everybody for all of the reasons, just because they're
Mm-hmm.
a human being, despite what position that they are currently in professionally. And also, if that's not enough motivation for you, then also maybe remember that the person you're talking to might be the director today, or might be the director in 10 years from now. You never know. And I think this a lot when I work in casting and I work the front desk. And listen, there is a difference between you had a bad day and your shit is rubbing off on people, and we're all human. Fair. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. But then if you're just being a piece of crap to people because you put them in the category of, oh, they are not the person who can get you anything that you want or give you what you want, and you're only caring about the people who can give you what you want, that's bullshit. Because that person, me at the front desk, watch, I'm probably going to be the director one day that you're auditioning for, and I'm going to remember that you called me a piece of shit in front of 200 people. Like, there's stories where it's like,
With an actor who was trying to audition.
I mean, essentially, he didn't call me a piece of shit, but he basically said they were running late. There was this whole thing. He wanted to go in early. I couldn't put him in early. He essentially said that he's here on his lunch break from work, and if I don't put him in early above everybody else, very soon to that time that it was, if I don't put him in and then he's late for work and he loses his job and his children and partner all starve and end up homeless, I'll know whose fault it is, aka me, in front of the whole. This is before COVID, so like it was all in-person auditions and it was commercial, so you're seeing a lot of people, multiple studios going on. So it was like a very large group of people just yelling this out. And I was like, listen, he's having a bad day. There's rough stuff going on. And also, there's a threshold of what I will empathically excuse. And there's also like, excuse me, sir, I'm a human being. Go sit down. And that you're not hostage here. Like, if you need to go, you can absolutely go. And I understand it sucks. I understand you're losing out on an opportunity to do, like, I get it. My God, I've had to do that. I've had to miss auditions. I get it. It sucks. Also, understand how much power I have here and how the lack of power that I have here. But yeah. I might have more power one day. So be good to everybody. Be kind.
Yeah. And also, it's like, maybe just go back to work now because you're not getting the job, obviously. Like, that's something that people also seem to forget about is like, no matter where the person is on, you know, like on the ladder, like, the working in that, like in theater and film and television, it's so like people work so closely together. Like, there's nobody that is like, oh, well, they'll never tell these people. Like, it's like, especially like if it's the stage manager, it's assistant stage manager, production assistant, like everybody, there's like a half dozen people that are in like getting this thing done. Like, you think they're not going to talk to each other? Like,
I know. Like, you think that, absolutely. You think if the cast, like, if you're acting like this, do you think that we feel okay with sending you off to set where you will have to work with our clients who are like, who are, you know, whatever, wanting to make this commercial for this product, for this company, and also the other actors? And like, anyway, I mean, it's happened a couple times. It has not happened a ton of times, but I do have a handful of times where, and I remember like when I see those actors again, I feel uneasy around them. I'm like, I don't know how you're gonna. So I absolutely think that you're giving some good advice here about performance, because like, just treat people with kindness. And if you know you're having a shitty day, be aware of it. Take a moment. Like, I get that sometimes things are out of your control, but also there are many things that are in your control. And like, don't treat people like crap.
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't even know if it's that useful of a piece of advice, because it's like, be a nice person and don't treat people like shit. It's just like, if I have to tell you that, you're like, you know what, I was going to walk in and berate the assistant, but I listened to this podcast and this girl had this piece of advice for me. It said, like, I'm more likely to get the job if I am nice to people.
Yeah.
But
I guess it's one of those things where it's like when you are trying to like talk to a company or a corporation and you're like, just treat your employees more equitably. And they're like, yeah, but I care about the dollar and I care about how much money. I'm like, okay, great. Treating them more equitably will make them care more, will probably make them stick around longer, will make them work harder. That will make you money. So here I'm like, listen, asshole who was going to walk in and be rude, not being rude and being kind, they might be a huge director one day. So maybe that will like appeal to that part of them somehow.
Yeah, maybe.
But also, I don't really want to hire that person anyway. I'd rather they just go work on themselves and then they're kind because they want to be like a little bit more.
And that translates into like business advice as well, like running a business advice or whatever, where it's like people are trying to like squeeze every last, like save every last cent. And when they're taking it directly out of the pocket of their employees or being like, let's figure out a way to make them work late without having to pay them or whatever.
Yes.
It's bad. Like, keep your employees happy. Like, be specific about what you need from them and treat them fairly and keep them happy. And that will be the amount of people that don't seem to, and it's easier said than done for sure, because it's a big undertaking, all of it. And you have to keep so many different things in mind and be efficient and, you know, all this stuff. And sometimes like I would have loved to pay my employees more because we're living in the city that we're living in. And like, I mean, you know, fine.
Yes.
Above industry. But like that's the kind of thing where I'm like looking at the numbers, I'm like, oh, I can't, because there will not be a business for them to work in.
Exactly.
If, you know, if I'm, you know, we're not going to break even. But like, yeah, like it can be understated. Like, keeping your staff happy and healthy is so much more efficient for your bottom line. Because if you don't have turnover, you don't have people that are like dragging themselves through and doing a really mediocre job because they're completely burnt out and exhausted and they hate you. Is like, it's weird how hard it is sometimes to just find a job that will do that. And when people do, they're like, I have found, you know, this oasis, and everybody that I know who is good, please come work here. And like, they will stay for a decade and whatever. So yeah, that's also, I guess, business advice still.
Business advice. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Like it makes sense as a human being, and then it also makes sense as a business person. Like all of it. It all makes sense to just treat people or even customers. Like I think it's better to have good customer service and have repeat customers than just try and get them in once, squeeze any money you can out of them and then goodbye. It's like that's again long term. It's not sustainable for you. It's not long term. So no, I think, and that's why like I think it goes into any area, like any industry. It's just like treat your employees well, treat the people that you're like interviewing for the job well, treat the interviewee well. Just fucking is you're right. It's like, do we really have to tell people to treat people well? But I guess we do, sadly. That's the advice going in. Yeah.
It's also sorry. Oh, I was just gonna say it's tough in the like the landscape that we're living in, not to be like the world's on fire, but you know, which is very, I shouldn't even say it in that voice because it is, but like, and trying to navigate, like, how do I, you know, in this world that seems to be completely corrupt and horrible and impossible to live in a happy way, and the 0.1% is getting, you know, bigger, there's no more middle class, etc. Like, that was one thing that was occurring to me, especially in this city that is becoming more and more unaffordable and inequitable. Like, if I end up in any kind of position of power, like, what is my responsibility to, like, the people that I work, like the customers and the employees and the community that I'm in? And like, that's definitely something, it's something that I feel an obligation to take into account. And it is also very difficult, where it's like, I'm not like doing like Scrooge McDuck diving into all of our profits. Like, it is a challenge just to keep it afloat and keep things going. But like, ultimately, if you can operate from like, how do I create the most, like create a good place to work where people can pay their bills and be happy and comfortable and feel safe, and how can I create a product that is just, you know, makes people happy and does the best job of like helping people, like providing, like having worth as opposed to cost, I guess, or whatever, like you know, like charging a fair thing for what you're doing in order to keep your business afloat, but also still making it accessible to people, which I'm not totally sure. I mean, I think in the case of our artisanal handmade from scratch ice cream, like, people can probably go to their convenience store. A lot of the time it's just like, just go to the convenience store and get a drumstick. Like, you know, you don't need to, you know, go bougie all the time. But yeah, just like operate from like doing as much good as you can while also keeping yourself afloat and taking the community into account. Like, that's the kind of thing where I feel like that will also be a path to success, because I think that that's something that is really difficult. There's so many people that are just figuring out how do I squeeze as much money out of people that don't have that much money as humanly possible, so that I can hire people to run my business for me, and I can go get a yacht and never have to work again. And it's like a lot of those businesses end up failing because it doesn't mean anything to anyone. The employees hate them. They don't offer anything. They're trying to like get ahead of trends and be like on the cutting edge of like, Toronto just got its own blah blah blah. And anyway, like, so yeah, I mean, I can't remember how I got on this tangent, but
I loved all of it. You're right. It does end up being like a company where nobody cares about, or that there's nothing to care about and nobody cares about it because there's no substance to it. It's like everybody's just kind of going through the motions and chasing the trends and whatever. And I feel like especially nowadays, customers and employees like care more and more about the story behind companies or the people behind companies, or kind of like why they're doing what they're doing and what they're doing. And so for those people out there like yourself trying to make like quality products that are accessible to customers who they want to treat well, made by people that they want to treat well, like that does shine through. And even in the moments, I hope, where like it feels like, oh man, if we just cut this corner, it would be so much easier. And all these people are cutting these corners. I think staying true to that mandate of like who you are and what matters to you and treating people well does actually shine through and end up being successful in the end. That's the hope that I have anyway.
Yeah. And it's kind of our only angle in a way, because if you're just trying to, and I think the same thing goes for like art, and like if you're pitching TV shows or like trying to Mount Theater that's going to do something, is that like, if you're just trying to do the thing that's got the best angle or like the best like kind of scheme or whatever, like say it's like, if it's a business and it's like, I'm going to figure out a way to like offer this service really efficiently in a way that's we're going to get a huge client base, and it's going to be like, oh, we charge 5 cents from 8 million people or whatever. And so we just get this way of like monetizing everything and pay for, like, or it's like, oh, people will pay for ads or whatever. And there's nothing unique and there's no heart. It's just like a money generating scheme. Then like, unless you are a multi-billion-dollar corporation, then like the only people that seem to be able to make that work, with some very rare exceptions, are the people that where they just have so much money that they just throw a bunch of shit against the wall, and whatever works. And if you are a smaller person and you have an idea like that, it's just going to get stolen by one of the people with more money and power anyway. But what they don't have, like the mega corporations or the huge studios, like there is a power in doing something that is very specific to you and is very personal, and like just a very like, a personal connection, whether it's like something you're selling or a piece of art that you're making. Like that's kind of the only leg up you have, because like the people sitting in the office at Netflix can't generate that out of thin air, or or whatever. Or it's like, if I don't know, like I was trying to think of like, if Breyers swooped in, like like or whatever, like some giant Dairy Queen can't do what I do, because they don't have the people. I don't know, like they just don't have that power, because they're already a giant corporation, and they've got investors, and their bottom line is going to be just do it as cheap as possible and get the most money out of it possible. Like they are obligated to do that, and so are movie studios and stuff. So they don't have what you have in terms of like a vision and passion and just doing it for the sake of it and making connections in the community. So like people deviating away from that in the direction of like, I'm going to do the business smart thing, which is to try to do it in a like as much of a like, money cash flow efficient kind of way. It's like, because that's how the Uber people, like that's how Jeff Bezos did it or whatever. It just I think it's a bit misguided in that way, and which is nice, because it works out nicely, because that's kind of what you want to do anyway. Like that's what you're worried. Like I would be worried that it's like, am I making stupid business decisions just because it feels right in my heart? And it's like, but usually if you do make a decision from that place, with some mild exceptions, like that will be, people will appreciate that and see it, and that's what you're selling essentially.
And it comes through in that way. Absolutely. Julia, oh, I just adore you. I could just hear you talk for hours. Like I could just chat with you for hours.
I was nearing the end of that thing. I was like, I'm gonna need to stop talking.
Oh my God, Julia, you're even apologizing here. No, I love it
like,
so much.
I've had my lunch cocktail. Like I'm just like, I could just sit here and talk for the next 3 hours, and lots of people are aware that I absolutely could. But
I would love that. I was thinking like, oh man, okay, well just off air, I'm just gonna be like, hey, when do you get off work? Like, let's go grab coffee. No coffee. We should grab cocktails. It was right in front of me. Who am I? Why would I say that?
I was gonna say, or like I can bring you an ice cream sandwich. I meant to send you some, and then I realized that I've run out of time and I mismanaged my day. But I will. I will come there. Oh, I will come there and get. Assuming you're not severely lactose intolerant or.
I am a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. And last night I had like so many dairy products that I had such a stomach ache this morning, and I was like, "It's fine, stomach. You'll just have all the liqueur. Like you'll have all the alcohol this morning. You'll feel fine." But honestly, no. I would. I have thought about it multiple times. Like, oh, I want to go over to Ernie's. I want to go up there, and I hope Julie's working, and I can say hi quickly and not bother her because she's gonna be busy. But I want to say hi and. I mean, also I want to eat all your photos of all of your sandwiches. Like they look amazing. Okay. So yes, we're doing this. We're doing ice cream sandwiches and cocktails together so that we can chat for hours and hours. Okay. Okay. So what I would love to do next is a little rapid fire question situation. Sweet. Okay. Fantastic. Great. Oh my God. I'm so glad that you're excited about it. Okay. So, here we go. I'm so excited to ask you all of the questions. Okay. My dog is like coughing in the background. She's fine. If you hear, I don't know if my mic is picking it up, and it's happened a couple times. I'm like, I need to acknowledge, like, no, I'm not hiding a dead body in my condo in Toronto. And she's fine.
Oh,
She just does this sometimes. Anyway, she's
yeah.
totally fine. This is like her afternoon cough. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. What ice cream sandwich flavor are you like itching to try to make that you haven't made yet?
Ooh, I have. Oh, I mean, we've been able to make most of them. I can tell you on the down low what our next flavor is, which is we're gonna do, and I'm putting the finishing touches on it. It sucks when I'm like, no, it's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But we're doing carrot cake. Um,
Oh,
so thought that would be a good
love
fall
carrot
kind of
cake.
thing. It's got a little cinnamon and whatnot. So it's gonna be like a carrot cake, kind of cakey blondie kind of thing with a cream cheese ice cream. I want to do something more special than just a brick of cream cheese ice cream, but I can't figure out what it is. My friend Erin keeps being like, raisins, put raisins in it. I'm like, get the fuck
Okay.
out
Yeah.
of
Get the fuck out. Yes,
no.
yes, yes. Some people
I'm
do
not
put
putting raisins
raisins
anywhere near
in
my
the
shit.
carrot cake. Maybe like walnuts or something because some people put nuts in their carrot cake, but I don't know if that's in the blondie maybe already. I don't know.
Yeah. It is already in the blondie, but maybe
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe like a praline or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
we'll figure
nuts
it.
are good.
It's also
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Oh my
Yeah.
God, count me in. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay. Okay, so something that people might not know about you that is like one of my top favorite things about you that makes you like an absolute rock star that I'm intimidated to talk to,
So
is
sick.
you have incredible, dare I say, perfect pitch. Like you are an incredible singer, and you have like perfect pitch. When you were directing me, there was many times where I had to be like, Julia, what the fuck is my note? And then you would just be able to sing it. I'm not going to ask you to do that here, but how can somebody like that's one of my insecurities. Like, how can someone have better pitch when they sing? Do you have
I
any
have
tips?
no idea.
You're just born with it.
I don't know. I think I have yeah, it's like the version of a photographic memory, but it is like auditory.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
interesting.
think the thing that the time when I realized that I was able to do it
Mm.
was, and I think it was drilled into me, and literally this is still my kind of like reference note, if I need to think of a note.
Mm.
When I was in high school, I was in Sound of Music, and I was one of the nuns that sings "How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria," and so there
Oh,
was
yes.
that number starts. The person starts singing before the music kicks in, so they have to have their starting note before the. I think it was my line, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was.
You would have been
Maybe.
the
Anyway,
smart one to give that to because you have perfect
well,
pitch out of nowhere.
what they did was, I believe it was a G,
Mm.
and so what they did was that they had church bells playing, like in the scene before. They just have church bells, and they did them in a G. So like right before we started singing, you get your note, but like sneakily.
Oh,
And
I
so I
love
did
that
that.
intel.
Yeah, and so it was really fun, and it was in London. It was at the Grand Theatre. They do a high school project thing, so it was like a full production. It was really cool. It's to date the
Ooh.
biggest production I've ever been in. But it was, and so yeah, it was a G, and we did that show for like 3 weeks, like
Mm.
6 shows a week, while
Wow.
also being in high school. And so I don't know, like how many, like 100 times we were like listening, got the note, we are like, that's the G, okay, great. And so for the rest of that was, I don't know, 15 years ago, and it's still burned into my la. That's a G, I think. Oh, although now I'm
Oh.
scared because what if I'm wrong? Um,
Listen, okay, maybe you are. It's
yeah.
been a long pandemic, so that's
Yeah.
what we're gonna blame it on. But
Mhm.
full like I have full evidence to pull out that the whole time that you were directing me, and we had like full harmonies and stuff, and me and Madeline, who played my sister, you would be able to be like, Amanda, this is your note, and just like I'm not even gonna sing it, and like just sing, and then like Madeline, this is your note, and I'm not talking about where we started in the song. It could be midway through, and you were able to give me a note of like the third word of the sentence. I was in such awe, Julie. Also, you're an incredible singer. If you're interested in doing that, also, you should do that. And you're a wonderful writer, and you're an incredible performer. Like all the things. If you're interested, but I'm very big on like only if you just because you're talented at something doesn't mean you have to do it. I know you're about to hide behind your hair
Like, when I
from
was
The
getting my hair,
Office. It's like when
yeah, my
when
hair
she
was my
does it.
room.
My
Uh,
in the foster home. My hair was
yeah,
my room. Um,
uh,
yes. Okay, that's
yeah,
a good tip. Like find a note and just
and
know the
kind of like
shit out
drill
of
it into
that
your
note.
brain, maybe.
Yeah,
With
maybe.
also, like, I
Yeah.
mean, I grew up in choir and playing like piano lessons and all this stuff. So I think it also was like drilled into me from a very early age. So I don't like, I can't give advice. It's not like I practiced it and perfected it. It was just, I don't know.
I was just in choir and piano and did 6 shows a week for 3 weeks. I didn't work for it. I do think you have a natural knack for it, but I think I'm going to try and be able to pull out of my ass middle C. For some reason in my head, I feel like middle C will be like the most helpful note to know off the top of my head.
Yeah, there's something scientific about it where it's like right in the middle of something. I mean, it's in the middle of the piano.
Something.
There's like, but there's something auditory about it where it's just like a very easy note tonally for people to connect to. I don't know. But
watch it be like right in my break, like where I can't quite, like my shaky little, where you go from like your chest to your head voice. Watch it be right in the middle of there, and I'm like, I can never find it. Okay, if you were to start a totally different, this is what I do with rapid fire, is I ask and then I want to chat about it. Okay, so I'm trying to get more rapid, and then I get like a little sweaty because I get nervous. Okay, if you were to start another business, a totally different business right now, what kind of product would you sell?
Ooh. I was actually talking about this earlier with my friends that are in from the UK. Apparently in the UK, they turned everything into like secret supper clubs and like speakeasies and stuff. And I have thought a lot, although now that I've actually done this, I'm like, would that be super fun or would it be just extremely stressful? But like, I'm just having like a little wine bar kind of thing and just creating a vibe. Like I love entertaining and I geek out over stuff like lighting and glassware and cocktails and finding the cool whatever, you know, that is like, we just got this in from Italy and there's just a few bottles in Toronto and we scored it or whatever, like, and then creating playlists like that, all that kind of stuff is super exciting. But I also think that would be similar to this one where it's like, oh, that'll be so fun and creatively rewarding, and then instead you're just like, kill me, like, you know, like, oh, the suppliers are
all the stuff that exactly, it's all the stuff that comes
and the health inspector's coming and oh god, oh there's a mouse, I don't know, oh fuck, like this person just quit. Like I don't think that there is a business that you can run that is like just a fun breezy kind of thing necessarily.
Maybe being like, I feel like you would be fantastic at being, and I don't know what to call this, so I'm just calling it like a vibe consultant, like somebody who wants to wants to open the speakeasy. They consult you essentially, like you said, being like creative director, like the person in Truman Show. Like you get to, it's almost like interior design, but also branding, but also it's all the things where you're like, this would be the vibe of this place. I feel like you would be so great at it, and then you don't have to deal with suppliers or any of that bullshit. And then you can just go in and enjoy the speakeasy rather than having to work at it.
Yeah. I did have an employer that like ran, like it wasn't necessarily her MO to just start places and then walk away, but that was kind of what eventually would end up happening, is that she would like create a business, and she had such an amazing kind of eye for like everything, like such a good sensibility. And so like, I mean, I can rattle off, she was involved in the Ace on Roncesvalles, Dakota Tavern on Ossington, Skyline Restaurant, the Paddock on Bathurst, there were other ones. And it was like a family operation. Her brother did Communist Daughter and like the 3 Speed. And it's just like these people that have like the best sense of creating a vibe in ways that I never would have even thought of, in terms of like decor and like where to source your tables from some like estate sale or whatever. Like, and like, it's such a cool thing. So what she would frequently end up doing is just like, she'd be like, all right, I'm starting this business, and she would do all of that, and then it would be obviously super successful, and then she'd end up selling it, like selling the business, and then using that sort of capital for her next like project. And so yeah, and I think that's somewhat similar to Gen Egg in Toronto, but these people also continue to work in their businesses as well. But but that would be cool. I wish I could just go around. I
totally see you doing that.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then you just have like a really good Aaron who you can work, like you have to have a really good second in command or who ends up being first in command at that location. Because I guess it depends on each business. Like maybe some of them you want to continue working in and be more involved than others. But I could totally see you doing that, especially now that you have all of this like business experience going through it and actually opening up your own business and kind of understanding those parts too.
Yeah. And then nothing would have to stay frozen.
And then nothing, you don't have to do frozen stuff again. You could do stuff that can't melt. That would be kind of nice. I'm sure it would have its own problem, but it wouldn't have to melt.
No dairy. No
Yeah,
dairy to
maybe
be able to.
no food. Like maybe it would be
Mhm,
something that wasn't even food related. The
maybe.
shelf life on those products would be so
Mm,
great for you, you
so true.
know? Oh,
Also, if I
yes.
am giving business advice,
Yeah.
don't start a business involving liquid dairy. Just don't do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. For
there's
your
so
first one
many
at least.
there's so many like Department of Agriculture like
Oh no.
laws and regulations that you have to deal with and like just don't.
Don't
Just
do
don't.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do it for like your fifth business, not your first. We'll just
Yeah.
hold off
It
a little bit.
was it's a whole nightmare.
And if
Like
you are, then contact Julia and you have to pay her for her time for her to tell you about her
yeah.
experience also. Or
I
maybe she
feel like
doesn't
there's
want
better people you could
to.
I'll tell you exactly what not to do, which is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everything that I did.
Which is
Yeah.
just as helpful sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this I'm pulling from an Instagram photo. Okay, you have an
Mhm.
Instagram post, and I'm forgetting the year now. This could be 17 years ago, but which I don't think Instagram even. But anyway, you have a photo, and it's so cute, and the caption is something like, "This is my identity in a photo" or something, and it's like your really cute typewriter this very cute turquoise one, and but then you have this box of Oreos that are double stuffed. And I'm like, Julia, do you prefer double stuff over regular?
I guess so. Yeah. Why
Right.
wouldn't you? Like, I mean, I
It's
love
too
them
much
both.
stuff, Julia. It's too much stuff. I can't do it. And lately it's come up in my life. People have bought me double stuff like Fudgios, or there was double, or we were at the grocery store picking Oreos to bring to like a cottage. And I was like, I don't want double stuff. It's too much. But do you
I
like
might
it? Maybe
I haven't had an Oreo in a really long time now that I think, but that might have been the last time I had Oreos. And that was in
Because it was double
pandemic days, like
stuff.
early
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah, early pandemic.
Yeah, you might have a point. Like it might be a better balance of flavors. Like it might be too much sweetness, but like I
Yeah.
just love that stuff,
I
you
think
know?
I'm feeling insecure. I'm like, am I missing something? Also, you know what I realized because of your photo and the Fudgios that somebody sent? I was having a rough week and someone sent me Fudgios. It was very sweet.
Oh.
It was actually very kind. But
Mhm.
on both of them, on the box, it says double. I thought it was double stuffed, but it's double
Hmm.
stuff. STUF. Where is the second F? I'm so confused. Christy Cookies, hit me up. What is going on with it? Am I missing something? Or listeners, viewers, somebody tell me why is there only one F?
I have no idea. Maybe they charge by the letter for like printing. Like yeah, that's a
Christie
good point.
Corporation can afford it. Anyway, okay.
I mean, we're talking about it, so maybe it's
So
done its job.
listen, marketing is
They're like,
working.
this is gonna get people talking.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, my last rapid fire for you is in the BlogTO article that you mentioned earlier. You said, quote, I could write an essay on my beliefs on the perfect ice cream sandwich composition, end quote.
Mhm.
So I want to know, what makes a perfect ice cream sandwich composition?
Well, first of all, I wrote that as like I was mortified because I wrote that at the end. Like they had all these questions and I answered all the questions.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wrote something like, sorry if these answers were too long. I could write an essay on the perfect ice cream sandwich, lol, but I'll spare you, or something like that. And then they put it in as like the quote being like, I could write an essay on the perfect ice cream sandwich. And I was like, oh,
you were like, that was my apology for all my other answers. Oh,
yeah,
no.
there's yeah.
And then I pulled it out too.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had an interview where there wasn't something that I'm like, why did I say that? Or like, that's not what I meant. Oh
yes,
God.
Totally.
But anyway, okay, so the biggest things are that the cookie has to be soft enough to be bite throughable. Like that's kind of the biggest thing. And like getting ratios right is important. So what we end up doing, like one of the labor of love things that ends up having to be done, which makes it arguable that this is not a great business venture, is that I changed recipes for cookies, and so to make them much like softer and butterier, so that they when they're frozen they're still soft, they don't turn into a rock. But that means that we then have to, like when they're baked, they're so soft that if you try to take them out of the tray they just fall apart. So we have to bake them and then freeze them and then work with them once they're like frozen, or at least very well chilled. So that's why nobody's done what we're doing yet. Or if they have, it's rare or whatever. Like it's so much work. It's arguably more work than it's entirely worth. The other thing is, I'm just giving away my trade secrets now, but the ice cream and also the cookie. Basically, food when it's frozen loses a lot of its flavor just because it's frozen. So, like for instance, if you've ever like had a bowl of ice cream and then it melts, and then you try to eat the like melted ice cream, it's like, oh god, like it's like it makes you sick immediately. Like way too sweet, way too rich. But then when it's ice cream, it's fantastic, and that's because like the flavors are really dulled. So we put more sugar and more salt, like a shit ton of salt in everything. Interesting. Because when I made like regular cookies and then ice cream, it's like we just couldn't even taste anything. So that's just kind of how it's done. And then being able to make it so that it can all be frozen in one piece. That means that because if you get a room temperature cookie and put some ice cream on there, then it's just gonna melt and fall apart. So like, and if you bite through it, it's just gonna immediately all fall apart and squish out and stuff. So that was the stuff that I set out to kind of work on it and figure out a way to make it work, and to varying levels of success. Like sometimes it's a bit challenging, and or if a cookie gets over baked, or like the ice cream's a little too soft or whatever, sometimes it can still be a bit of an undertaking, but we do our best to make that happen. And I'm pretty proud of how it's turned out.
I love that you're thinking again of the vibe, the whole like customer experience of like, hey, the cookie has to be soft enough that you can actually eat it, and also like it has to stay together, and you have to be able to eat it like a sandwich, and you have to actually be able to taste the flavors when it's frozen. Like all of this, again, like you said, all of these big corporations cannot do what we are doing when we're being as thoughtful as this. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited to try your peanut butter and jelly one, and the carrot one. I'm dying. I'm so excited for that one when it comes out. But in the meantime, and all of them. I mean, all of them. When I look at them, I'm like, I want all of these. Okay, so the way that I'm trying to end off the episodes these days is I'm trying to get better at like putting out what I want, like asking for what I want, rather than just thinking about what I want in my head and then hoping that people read my mind and give me those opportunities. I'm like, I should let people know. So I'm wondering, what is something that you might want to put out into the I can't even talk right now. What is something that you would want to put out into the universe? Like maybe somebody listening or watching this right now is able to give you an opportunity that you would really like. What's something that you would really like that you might want to ask for or put out there?
I think the biggest thing that is like maybe limiting our traction is just space and capital. Like we have the equipment we have the space that we have, and it is limiting our capacity to make stuff. So the thing that always comes to mind for me is just like people with access to space and equipment or what have you, or any like people with experience on how to kind of level up from here, or expand, scale up is the word. That's very much something that I would love some help with, because I feel like we're a cute little neighborhood spot and we do what we can. We're like a little ragtag team, but in terms of upward mobility, we're kind of at a little bit of an impasse. And also like I just want to be able to like be part of people's events. Like that was always a kind of idea that we really want to like do like weddings and birthdays and festivals and that kind of thing, and just be like able to just pull up with a big box of ice cream sandwiches. And so that's something we've done a little bit of that, but more I've been reaching out to some like event planners and stuff like that, just to be like, hey, we're like, throw us in the mix in terms of if you're looking for like a midnight snack for the wedding on the dance floor, like, or something for we did a bat mitzvah the other day that was friggin' wild. Holy crap. Like I didn't go, but they bought like something like 150 ice cream sandwiches, and I was like, it's gonna cost this much if you want to do that. And they're like, okay. And then the guy pulled up and like told me what the budget was for this bat mitzvah, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That's like 10 times what I would spend on a wedding. Like, what the hell? So like, if you know any people like that,
who are throwing big festivities and who love ice cream sandwiches, that's a great idea. That's so fun. Of like, what are you having? Are you having a birthday? Are you having like a corporate event? Are you having whatever, where like, hey, here's a fun, because there's so, I mean, first of all, the quality of the product, and also they're unique and they're different, and they are like artisanal looking, like they're fancy. They're so fucking beautiful. They're so photogenic.
Photogenic?
Yeah, they look so good. And
Oh.
so anyway, that's a great one to put out there, because also people might not know that you're interested in getting involved in more like event spaces. So I love that.
Yeah. We had one
Is
person
going to be just around the corner.
I had somebody reach out when we were like just opening up, so we just couldn't do it.
Mhm.
But like they were from a film set, and they like a lot of the time on like film crews and whatever, they will have like some sort of appreciation thing where they're like, we brought in a taco truck or whatever, and they were reaching out being like, hey, can we get 150 ice cream sandwiches for next week? And I was like,
You're like,
no,
I'm still working from my apartment. Like I can't do 150.
But now I'm like, hey, I can do it now. I know it's mid to late October. Do you want the ice cream still? But
honestly, Julia, like all those reaching out, just watch when, I feel like I'm mansplaining now, but it's like, just watch when the weather gets warmer, all those film crews, and then also like when peak wedding season hits, all of the stuff that you're reaching out for now, it's like, get ready, because I'm sure you're going to get a ton of those coming back to you, and more, I hope, from anyone listening or watching who's like, oh, I want that. Reach out. I love that. Thank you so much for doing this with me today, Julia. And like, I want to go for cocktails I want to eat all of your ice cream sandwiches, and I want to go get cocktails, and I want to try Last Word, because that was the other drink that we had talked about. So I want to try that at a bar where they have all the cool ingredients for it.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, that's for sure. I need more social life now at this point. Like post pandemic, post starting a business, I was like, hello,
is anyone out there? Yeah,
have you forgotten me?
You're just in your freezer. Hello, anybody? Yeah. I know. It's rough coming out of all the time. Well, yeah, and starting a business is like, okay, well, great. I think I even have your phone number still from the directing days, so we'll just text and we'll just go and do it. I love that. Thank you. Everyone go buy an ice cream sandwich.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a delight. And nobody doesn't love talking about themselves for an extended period of time. So very nice way to break up my weekend day and, dealing with all the drudgery to be like, this is fun. So thank you so much. It means so much that you reached out, especially with the caliber of guests that you have on and like being included in that. Like, realm. I don't know.
Julia, you are of that caliber. You are. There's a reason. Yes, 100%. You are so welcome. I have been wanting to have you on for so long. I think you're so. I thought you were dynamite even before you opened up your own friggin' beautiful business. So I was like, are you kidding me with this? So anyway, I'm so thrilled we could work it out. And I'm so glad to hang out in real life now.
Oh, thanks. I just remembered, not to keep dragging this out, you can get this out. But when you were talking about starting a podcast, and you were like, I think you just mentioned something about starting a podcast, but I had not seen a description of what the podcast was. Yeah. So I immediately reached out being like, because I also started a pandemic podcast briefly.
Yes.
And did 12 episodes and then just stopped.
I listened to them. They were so fun.
Oh, well.
About cocktail culture and history. Yeah, they were so fun.
Yeah, and so I just immediately reached out being like, hey, I like podcasts. I'll be on your podcast. You want me on your podcast? Let's do a podcast together. And then I read the description. It was like, I meet up with inspiring women who are life-changing and pioneers in their field, and people that I've been scared to reach out to because I'm so intimidated by them and so impressed by their prowess and ambition, all this stuff. I was like, I'll do it.
I forgot that happened, and then I'm pretty sure you messaged me almost immediately and was like, "Oh my god, I just read the description. I'm so sorry that I volunteered myself for this."
You want me on that, I presume.
Oh my god, it's so funny. I totally forgot that, and it's funny because I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I said this or I just thought it, but I was like, Julie, you're already on my list. So you're not being presumptuous as my list is longer than I have episodes for. So no, you were already on it.
Before I'd done any of this and was fully completely unemployed and aimless in life. And I was like, put me on your list of inspiring women and talk about all the things I'm working on, which is nothing.
No, I loved it. It's also so pure. It was just hey, it felt really lovely. Actually, after you sent the second message and I realized you didn't know the premise of the podcast or whatever, I realized, oh, wow, she just reached out because she knew Amanda and podcast. Sure, I'd want to talk to you. Let's do this. And I felt it made me feel very nice. And I mean, it was also a relief to me because I was like, oh, you're already on my list. This is an easy one. I don't have to say anything. I mean, you were already on there. So it was very sweet to know before I asked you that you would already be potentially open to it. So you saved me some nerves, honestly. So that was very nice of you.
That's very nice.
Very nice. Oh my God. Okay, I have a little last bit of my drink, and this is not for you. I'm just going to chug mine because I'm like, whatever. I am feeling this alcohol. Like, did I have breakfast? Like, I don't know what I did, but I'm going to finish off this drink. This drink is so good. I'm not just saying that because, like, I could say it's horrible. It's not like all of these alcohols are a sponsor. This drink was so good. I would order this at a cocktail lounge bar at a fancy place. I would order this.
I'm happy for you. Yeah. Chug, chug, chug. Nice. I don't understand at all how you didn't just I just chinned that entire thing in 5 seconds. I was pacing myself and I was done it in the first 10 minutes.
You know what? When I made it, I realized, maybe I should have doubled the volume of all of them. Because I realized, I should have done that. And then I was like, well, then I'm drinking double that in the same amount of time. Yes. I think it's also, when I'm recording, I end up going slower on my drinks than in real life because I'm trying to be captain of the ship, I think. So I'm not paying attention to my drink as much as I would if we were just at a bar or at someone's house and just drinking away and whatever. But this one was great because sometimes there's drinks that they are so large in volume. I'm like, how am I going to finish this and not have to pee halfway through? So this one was actually perfect. And I would drink another one. They're so good.
Awesome. Well, yeah, no, then there you go. I'm glad you like it.
Thank you for adding that to my life. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Liquid Courage podcast. If you liked what you saw and you're looking to support the show, here's a few ways you can help. You can leave the show a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or you can follow the show on Instagram and TikTok at Liquid Courage Podcast. Or, and best of all, you can tell a friend about the show. Tell a family member, tell a coworker, post about your favorite episode online. Spread the word. That really is the best way to help support the show and help it grow. Did I just rhyme? Okay, until the next episode, cheers!